Okay, let's look at the SPY before we go into the watch list for Friday, April 22nd. I drew a trend line here, and the SPY, as I said in a video earlier this week, maybe yesterday, the SPY is almost straight up here from the February lows and running into this trend line. I mean, there's a lot of supply up here, and so who knows if today was a short-term top. I'm not very good at predicting the overall market, but it's certainly worth noting that this SPY is ahead of itself. And if nothing else, you'd expect it to come in for a day or two. But anything could happen. Tomorrow it could gap up and rip or gap down and rip. You never know, right? So we just play the individual stocks. But it is, excuse me, it is good to look at the overall market. So my watch is for tomorrow, pretty small. Didn't post any results today because I was at the doctor this morning. As a matter of fact, this is my first video in 12 years whilst on muscle relaxers. So I don't feel weird yet, but from my past, I remember them making me feel a little weird. Maybe it's too soon. Just took them a little while ago. But anyway, I had some back issues, and so I'm a little under the weather as far as pain goes, and I wasn't very involved in the chat room today. I didn't even get there till I don't know, 90 minutes into the session. So I have no idea what was called by the fellas, by the other mods. I heard some people said they had a good morning, but anyway, there's nothing on the results page from today because really wasn't much of a participant. Things I want to watch tomorrow. I've talked about this before. A lot of times you get a beaten up stock where the sellers just get a hold of it intraday and it can't bounce, and then the next day you get a bounce. Just as an example, Netflix. Remember I threw Netflix on watch the other day. For the same reason, you can see what it did the next day. Flushed out, took out the lows of that day, and then a violent reversal higher. So there's an example of kind of why I put something that's really beaten up on watch. A lot of times you get a bounce the next day. So anyway, that goes on watch. ARGS was on bounce watch for today. No trade. It's just another red day, but it goes back on bounce watch for tomorrow. PTCT. Actually, I gave an idea in this one right after I got back from the doctor. This was already on bounce watch. No, never mind. This isn't the one. Somebody else did. Somebody else in the room, I think, posted this one. I wasn't quite back. I was thinking of RUN. I'll show you that in just a second, just to show you I'm not completely crazy. But anyway, PTCT was on bounce watch. These are 5-minute candles. And I'm fairly certain, I didn't look at the chat logs, I'm fairly certain somebody alerted this before it broke. The people in chat were watching it to be sure because it was already on our watch list. This is kind of what we want to see. You hear me say in my videos, I'd like to see it trade in a narrow range for a while and then break to the upside. So you had that. You had a narrow range, and then look what happens. It breaks and then was off to the races. So there's a little trading lesson right there. When you have something on bounce watch, and typically for me, it's going to be something that was really strong and then came in for a few days on lower volume, then it goes on bounce watch, right? Go to 5-minute candles. It's perfect. That's a perfect setup. Nothing tricky, just a nice narrow range. You grab it as it's breaking the high of the day. You want it to trade for at least 30 minutes before that happens, and that's exactly what happened here. So anyone that grabbed this around 770, you got to move up to, what, 841? And the reason it's on watch again is because it closed pretty strong in a pretty weak tape. So this one might have a follow-through bounce day. All right, the chart looks pretty good. EYES, I see got a little bit of a volume spike today. Great support below. You had this big 2-day run back here. Kind of a secondary bounce, equal high basically right there, secondary bounce. Nice support, and today got a little volume spike. So it didn't close near its highs. I wished it would have, but we still want to watch that. Maybe there's news coming in that one. RPRX. Let me pan out a little bit. This is that crazy one. Made a huge move. Now you're 3 days lower, but a nice green candle today. This one might be up from here. I want to watch that one tomorrow. And then lastly, ADXS. I typed it wrong. ADXS is really just consolidating here, but I like the little extra volume today. Held up again in a weak tape. So over today's high would be 1010. So I'm going to put that in my notes right now, 1010. And then a breakout of this range would be over this high of 1031. And let's see, the overall high, 1040, would be completely above this range, right? So you had a nice pop here, and then you've kind of got a little flag. So this one looks good. Maybe if you get a break above all this, maybe you get a move to the 200-day would be a good target for tomorrow, or any day next week if the pattern still holds, but it doesn't go tomorrow. Okay. And I said I would show you run real quick. This is the one I made a call on today in the chat. I was just back from the doctor. This was on my long watch list. It looked like this when I found it. So, it sold off, takes out the highs. You don't want to take the high of day break here when it's just had this kind of shape to get there, right? It's already made a good move for 20 minutes, but then you put in a high and then you kind of flag. In other words, you didn't come back down. You're staying in a fairly narrow range. So I just typed out something like run, RUN, over high of day might break out. It's something like that. So which would make the trigger 7.55. And the stop, I didn't type a stop, but the stop is obvious. It would just go below this little flag. So the stop would be 7.42. And you can see what happened. You get the high of day break, and it's off to the races, went all the way to 7.90. So there's an example of something from the watch list that I was able to call. PTCT was a better stock from the watch list, though, as far as the really nice move and the really nice setup. So anyway, guys, that's what I have. We'll be watching and working together, spotting gappers in the pre-market tomorrow, too, to get ready for the open. So we trade those gappers. We look for reversals as the market unfolds throughout the day. And then we also kind of keep our eyes on the watch list I just gave you to see if anything sets up, like the examples RUN and PTCT from today. All right. So enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.